much more respect. Okay, you have some skill.
Alright, yeah, that's a bit of a stretch, but it still felt pretty good. So the title of this video is I had bulletproof coffee every day for the past month. And that's true. I did make bulletproof coffee with the actual bulletproof ingredients, so grass-fed ghee and brain octane MCT oil. So in case you didn't know what the deal is with that MCT oil, it's basically the specific types of MCTs which immediately turn into ketones as soon as you consume them. They also don't have any digestive distress or cause any problems with your stomach and digestion. So they're much better to consume and they're much higher quality because most MCTs have lauric acid in them, which can be a problem for your digestion and give you an upset stomach. So when it comes to the bulletproof coffee, I had it every single day. Most of the times I had it in the morning, sometimes I had it in the evening. And there's a couple things I noticed, okay? Number one thing I noticed is that I was able to fast a little bit longer. At first, I didn't actually think that I was going to fast easier by consuming this in the morning because I almost felt like the rush of calories made me want to eat more food. But I noticed that as I had bulletproof coffee later in the day, it got to a point where maybe if I had a breakfast already, or if I had a small snack in the morning, or if I was just still fasted and had a black coffee in the morning and then bulletproof coffee, when bulletproof coffee was coming middle in my day, I was able to fast for like 7 or 8 hours after that, like extended. So I could extend my fast by multiple hours if I had it midday. So bulletproof coffee, at first when I was thinking about fasting, I didn't think that it was making much of a difference when I had it in the morning all the time. However, when I had it evening, it was a huge difference. And I think this is greatly due to the ketones that your body creates from the MCTs, but also because grass-fed ghee is very nutritious and nutrient dense. So on one hand, I can see that it may spike your calories because bulletproof coffee is caloric and has a couple hundred calories, but because it's so satiating and full of nutrients, it almost satisfies your body to the point where your body isn't craving food as much because it's so nutrient dense and it's not needing anything else necessarily. It's not in as desperate of a state because you just satisfied it. So that was my opinion on the fasting effects of bulletproof coffee. Mental effects, I did feel like every time I had bulletproof coffee, I noticed obviously a lot more focus, okay? And when I had it in the mornings, I almost didn't notice it then as well. It's almost like having it in the morning didn't provide as much of a contrast in my state to make me notice that the mental benefits, because when you're going from waking up tired as hell and then you have coffee, it doesn't matter if you have, MCT oil in there and the biggest extra primo quality ingredients and ghees and butters. At the end of the day, if you go from tired to awake, you're not going to be too precise with how you notice the feelings. So I noticed the effects cognitively a lot more again when I was having bulletproof coffee midday. Funny enough, because I had it every single day for 30 days, but I changed up the timing and experimented with the different routines. So hopefully by me explaining to you the different uses I did, you can figure out what might be best for you. So one thing I did notice about having the coffee in the morning though was that when it comes to how long I felt the stimulant, because I have coffee, I normally have black coffee every morning up until I started doing this experiment with bulletproof coffee, and I noticed the stimulant effects did last longer. So this is probably due to the fact that the fat in the bulletproof coffee will slow the digestion of the coffee and the caffeine. So in general, it gives you a more sustainable and slowed release of caffeine. I did notice that for sure. And for me, I work at an office in the daytime, so basically I did have a very, very clear recollection of certain days being like, okay, I felt a good steady focus for several hours into the day, right? And it didn't really feel like a crash at all. I also had the Bulletproof Coffee beans. So this was Dave Asprey's mold toxin-free beans. In that case, for myself, because I live with Italians and they always buy luxury quality Lavazza Italian beans, we probably had better quality beans from which I had minimal mold toxins regularly from, right? A lot of people who are having more mold toxins in their coffee, which is one of the main reasons why people have bulletproof coffee in general, is because the mold toxins will affect the way you feel after you're done consuming the coffee. So for me, I didn't particularly notice that, but that's probably because I'm having more clean coffees and less mold toxin infused coffees on a regular basis. One thing I will know though is that I now think I'm a little bit better able to tell if I'm drinking coffee that has mold toxins. So if you're unfamiliar with all this talk about mold toxins, basically when they're producing and processing a lot of these beans, especially if it's a blend, these beans can get mold toxins, and mold toxins will slow you down in a lot of ways, and more people are more sensitive to them, some people are less sensitive to them. A lot of processed grain snacks do have mold toxins just because of the way they're processed, and we don't really notice that because we don't have any contrast or reference point to compare it to. But after consuming bulletproof coffee and making sure that I had bulletproof beans with no mold toxins every single day, I basically feel like when I had a coffee, an example at a conference I was at today, where it was probably just kind of crappy quality coffee they made to feed to a billion like 100 people, I did notice more of a lethargy a couple hours after consuming the coffee. So maybe it's just in my head, but I feel like my ability to determine whether or not I'm going to crash a bit after, maybe it's caused by mold toxins, maybe it's not, I'm better able to distinguish that. So that is something that I think I've gained from the bulletproof coffee experiment. So appetite suppression, focus, and mold toxin sensitivity are three things that I did notice. When it came to cranking out large amounts of work or something like that, I a couple times had bulletproof coffee in a big container like this, and I would grind it up and sip on it over a longer time. Now, it's almost like you feel a slightly different sensation at first, right? If you've ever tried any of the nootropic supplements, it's comparable to that. It's comparable to almost like a locking in sensation. So some people talk about flow states, some people talk about, smart drugs, but you definitely feel a bit of a locking in sensation after consuming the MCT. And something interesting was that for the first week, I actually didn't blend together the Bulletproof MCTs, but I was re-listening to Dave Asprey's Bulletproof book, and he recommended that you blend it together, like literally with a violent mixer of some sort, because it has to be aggressively mixed together in order for the polyphenols of the coffee to mix properly in with the MCTs. So I thought that was a bit of a bogus at first. I thought it was just like, it's a nice touch and it's not necessary. But funny enough, after the first week, either maybe my ability to distinguish what I was feeling from the coffee improved after that first week, so maybe it's a learning curve bias type of thing, but I definitely felt like I noticed the coffee's effects more when I blended it. I just used like a little hand mixer thing, and I definitely noticed the sensations more, that locking in. So maybe that one's a bit of my placebo, but if you're looking to consume bulletproof coffee and you're doing a ketogenic diet, that is absolutely going to be beneficial to you. One thing I can say that I won't be able to offer you in this video is I don't know what it was like to consume this coming from a carb metabolism. I've been doing a ketogenic diet for this entire month, and I've been doing it for the past 7 years on and off for several months at a time. So basically, I can't tell you what effects it would have on a carb metabolism. For me, it felt very smooth, and there was never any time where I felt like my focus was volatile, okay? Probably because I was already in a keto state, and then consuming this would deepen my ketosis. Somebody who's on a carb metabolism might not have that experience. So that's one disclaimer I'm going to throw at you here. Either way, I love this stuff, and my verdict is that I bought another vat of brain octane oil, so his MCTs from Dave Asprey and Bulletproof, and I bought a double-sized version of the one I bought before. So my verdict is that I would buy again, and I did. So if you're looking to consume bulletproof coffee, or you're interested in this whole bulletproof coffee thing, it's something that you're going to acquire a taste for like, I mean, actually, technically through taste, you'd have to be, you'd have to make it in a nice, tasty way. But, I mean, sensations, right? How you're going to feel that kind of taste. You're going to want to acquire the taste of picking out how it feels on your body and on your routines. So, for me, I love this stuff, and I'm absolutely going to be having the MCTs, the brain octane oil, with coffees for a long time to come. And I also found other good uses for them as well, because of the neuroprotective effects and because of how quickly the MCTs will turn to ketones, which can be used by your brain very easily. I sometimes experimented with having just the MCTs after a coffee later on at night, and didn't really notice too much of a benefit in sleep, but there were a couple days where I had very little sleep this month, and I actually functioned a lot better there on the days where I had Bulletproof MCTs and a lack of sleep. So today's probably a good example because I had like 3 hours of sleep out of like the last 45 hours, and I think I've been talking pretty smoothly and stuff and whatnot, and I had the Bulletproof MCTs around maybe 6 hours ago. Take that as you will, but either way, hopefully this video gave you some value. Thank you for watching. If you want to learn more about the ketogenic diet, ketogenic lifestyle, ask me a question and I'll get back to you. I get back to every single person. And besides that, click the little notification bell, subscribe to me. Thank you for watching. My name is Anthony Romano. Peace.